Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Skinny Truth podcast with my co-host, Dr. Josh Roller. A big thanks to FlavCity for sponsoring this episode of the Skinny Truth podcast. It's my favorite protein brand. FlavCity is not just your typical protein powder. It's a complete smoothie. With one scoop, you get 25 grams of protein, fruit, functional mushrooms, and nut butter. It's made with 100% clean ingredients that you can actually pronounce with no natural flavors. This is one protein shake that is a true meal replacement for me. I'm satisfied and filled up until my next meal every time I drink one. If you'd like to try FlavCity yourself, head over to shopflavcity.com and use code LauraF. And today we have another special guest joining us, and I'm going to let Dr. Roller introduce them to us.
All right, so this is a special day. I finally have Kim and her an arena that is not her workout place, where I am constantly suffering and getting damaged. So at this point, Kim is all things fitness to me and our family. She is the expert when it comes to fitness. So this is Kim Evans. She's the owner of SpoonMoon here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And like I said, she is the guru. So, and I should also say we've been friends for 15, 17 years at this point. Long time.
Yeah.
A long time. So I've seen her go through all her fitness trends and all the, if you want to know what's new in fitness, Kim is your person. So just tell everybody kind of it is what you do and how you got to this point.
Okay, I will. So I didn't actually start in fitness. I started in kind of a version of CPG, and to be frank, it was with Philip Morris. I was selling cigarettes out of college, and Walmart was one of my accounts. That's how I got to Northwest Arkansas from St. Louis originally. So I got here, met my husband, did the whole we're engaged thing. I should probably start working out. I wouldn't say that fitness was a big part of my life prior to that. I wasn't an athlete in high school, college, any of that. And so I went to the gym and I saw, I'd say a now friend teaching, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, I bet I could do that. I could probably do that. So I asked her, do you get a free membership? And she said, yeah, and my boyfriend does. And I was like, this is great. Done. Sold. So I went and I got certified to teach spin. I got certified for mat Pilates, really basic mat Pilates. And I got tossed into the ring. I had very little training outside of, I'd say, max 4 hours. And I can only imagine what those first classes looked like. They were a disaster. And it was a big gym. And that's how I spent the first, I'd say, 12 years of teaching. And I've been doing it for about 22 now. Through the places that I've been, I've taught at 10 different locations, 5 of which are still functioning. So it's a brutal business. And I knew that going into it. But it was one of those things I kind of just couldn't turn away from it anymore. I saw a hole for what and how I wanted to present it to people that I hadn't seen done yet. And so I went for it with SpoonMoon almost 5 years ago now.
Well, how in the world did you come up with that name? SpoonMoon.
So I had gotten into some of the astrology, cosmic sort of things and thought, okay, I really want it to have something to do with the moon. And the other thing is I didn't want to put studio or fitness in it because I didn't know if I was going to be doing that forever with the name. And so I wanted it to be able to morph and change however I wanted to in the future. And my husband had a business partner and he was just spitballing names. And he said SpoonMoon. And I said, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. He's like, hang on. There's something called the spoon theory. So we looked up the spoon theory, and it's all about how spoons relate to blocks of energy. And, sometimes you're only given 5 blocks or 5 spoons a day. And when they're gone, they're gone. And I was like, this totally relates because I had trained people. Josh, if you think I'm bad now, you should have met me about 15 years ago, because at that point I was I was pushing people to vomiting in parking lots. And so I had decided to kind of like, that wasn't really my MO anymore. I was ready to kind of refill some cups with meditation and some softer methods, in addition to still giving a really great challenge.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's dive in to, this is a very broad question, but what would you say is the best exercise for somebody wanting to lose weight? Now, keep in mind too, let's think of somebody that has like a lot of weight to lose, like kind of the patients that Dr. Roller sees.
Well, my first thing that I would say is consistency. It's that the old standard of literally one foot in front of the other. We and I have seen in lots of places, lots of shapes and sizes of all sorts of people. And when you get someone that they don't have to push themselves to extreme measures every day, they just have to show up. And they just have to make a commitment to themselves and some sort of movement. And then it just kind of happens. And it's almost one of those things like they look back and it's like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this. Oh my gosh, that was 40 pounds ago. Holy cow. And I think then it comes in like, you can get down to the nitty gritty of like, what's going to burn the most? How are we going to, build the muscle once, to burn the metabolism effectively?
Right.
But in the beginning, I think it's just like, it's a walk around the block. It's a walk to get your mail sort of a situation.
Yeah, I think you nailed that, because when I started my journey, I was 384 pounds. I'm only 5'1". So I was extremely heavy, and exercise was so hard to do. And in the beginning, that's what it was, like walking around the block, just moving my body. And is what I've said, like that evolves as you lose weight, your exercise will change. But I think you nailed it. Consistency and just show up.
I think that's a great baseline. And yeah, extreme measures are always too much. And you almost find that the body will go in the opposite direction of what you want it to. And it'll almost get angry at you. So you'll start to have like more swelling. You'll have more muscle pain because the inflammation has become so great that the recovery from it. And I can only imagine when you start to feel good and that you can move well, it's just like an addiction in another way. It's like, oh my gosh, I want to do this all the time. And to remember to balance it to, if you start to run, or if you do start to lift weights or swimming or, something like that, to balance it with some of the wellness side, which would be a cryotherapy, infrared sauna, more holistic type practices.
One of the things that, the reason I started doing spin class was I had back surgery like 10 years ago. And so running was out, any kind of really heavy pounding kind of things. And I remember going to the first spin class. I'm like, I cannot believe Kristen has dragged me here. This is so this is all girls. I'm the only guy in the class. But what I remember is that it's the only thing I could do without a whole lot of stress on my back, but I could still get really hot and sweaty. And there's not many exercises you can do like that. Maybe an elliptical, maybe spin, but I think that's why it's so good. Probably same for hips and knees, I would imagine.
That's totally right. So one of my first instructors at SpoonMoon, she was a student and she was a cheerleader at the University of Arkansas, and she was dropped and she had torn her ACL, and she walked in because she was told to come spin for rehab. And she tried just a basic gym spin class and was like, this isn't any fun, and started coming and fell in love with it. And it really was her that made me look into the rehab side of it. Because if I'm going to see person after person after person, I'm asked a lot of different questions on injuries on any given day. And so in order to educate my staff and my clients, I try to do my homework on all fronts. So as soon as I hear something new, I'm like doing a deep dive to learn as much as I can on it. And the coolest thing about the bike is that it absorbs our weight. And so the bikes that we have currently are some of the best in the market for size. And so the largest person that can be on it that it'll hold, so it says, is 450 pounds, up to like 6'8", I think is the height on it. And so it's a super sturdy bike. And to be able to be on something that is not causing extra pressure on your joints is just unbelievable for someone. And so, I mean, we've got a client right now that's in her 60s, down to a 14-year-old that's trying it too. Two totally different demographics we've got someone who's barely operated their body and is having to learn how to use it. And then we've got someone that has a lot of wear and tear on her body. She's got a new knee that she's come back from and all of that. So it's just always so cool to see like the benefits of it. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, let's also talk about wearable devices. So there's so many things out there. Apple Watch, Oura Ring.
Yep.
Yeah. Talk to us about your thoughts and feelings on those and applied to like exercise and health.
I love them, but I'm going to say I probably don't love them for why you think I'm going to love them. Okay. I wore a heart rate monitor when I first started teaching, and the old school like strap, because that was really all Polar made at that point. There wasn't anything else. And I used to love it. Like I was attached to it. And if I didn't have it on, did it count? Did I even do it? It doesn't even matter. And I kind of got away from that as technology evolved, and I got the Apple Watch. I didn't really love my Apple Watch to begin with because I had my Polar. So I actually knew what my calories were that I was burning.
Polar being the chest strap would measure.
Right.
Yes, the watch chest strap combo, which let me say is still a really, really good device to have. You have to just place that strap is kind of like sensitive. It has to be right in the right spot. You have to have a good connectivity. So you sometimes need some gel. Anyway, I knew what I was
sometimes burning. Like if you have a whole lot of chest muscle like I do, it's not going to pick up very well.
Right. Yeah. It could, turn up or you just never know. Yeah.
Yeah. I stopped bench pressing so I could wear mine.
Right. Anyway, so I could see that my calories weren't quite there, but I liked my Apple Watch for like, what's my resting heart rate? Because I had known that it really didn't matter how fast and how high I got. What mattered was my recovery. How quickly did I recover and go back down? And so I would play this game with myself, like, can I get down to like nearly dead at 40, at 43 today? And so it helped me learn like, okay, I'm increasing my fitness ability. Well, when I got my Oura Ring 3 years ago, there was a discrepancy between the two. And I have found that I really like my Oura Ring. I still use my watch for when I'm working, but my Oura Ring is really where it's at. And it really, because it tracks resilience, it tracks my sleep, it tracks my resting heart rate. It gives me all the stats, my cycle, everything that I really want. However, my number one favorite wearable is my Levels continuous glucose monitor.
Oh, yeah.
And you are not diabetic.
I am not diabetic. I actually reached out to Kristen. It's probably been 3 years ago now. And I listened to a podcast and I reached out and I was like, hey, I want you to prescribe a glucose monitor for me. And she was like, that's ridiculous. I'm not doing that for you. You don't need that. And I was like, I know, but I really want it. I want to see, because when I was pregnant, I had high blood sugar, not to like diabetic level, but it was like, I always rode the line. And so once Levels like really got to a good place, I went ahead and did it. And between the workouts and the food and how I feel and sleep and all, it's like such a great way to monitor my overall health.
So with the glucose monitor, are you mainly just watching to see what foods spike your blood sugar?
Yeah, I am watching to see what spikes it, but I'm watching to see what combinations of food I can eat to keep it steady throughout the day. So what I've found is vegetables before anything sweet or fruit will keep it down. Any sort of not decent amount, but I'd say at least 25 grams of protein will keep it down. When I teach.
So if you eat like a grilled chicken breast and then have a cookie, you're not seeing that spike.
Nothing. I'll see it's just,
it doesn't spike at all.
Doesn't spike at all.
Wow. So, I've been told on my journey, and fruit is an okay carb, but if you're eating fruit, pair it with a protein and then it's not going to spike your blood sugar. But that's so interesting with a cookie.
Yeah. I've done it. I've tried it with a salad, and then I've had ice cream, and I've even waited an hour and nothing. No spikes there either.
Wow. So what are, when you would spike on your blood sugar, how high are we talking?
Well, okay. So we were celebrating marketing thing a couple weeks ago, and I went and I got a bundt cake, and I was like, I'm wearing my monitor, and it's oh, okay, I'm going to do it. I had eaten a meat stick, and I had eaten some nuts, and I had eaten one other thing that was protein. And I thought, I bet that's good. That'll probably negate it. And my blood sugar went up 98 points to probably just over 200. I stay at right about 98 most of the time. And going that high for me is I had to teach not long from then. And I was like, this was a terrible idea. I don't know what I was thinking.
No more bundt cakes at SpoonMoon.
Right. Yeah, we're going to take a pause on those.
That's also interesting.
Yeah.
What do you tell people about sleep? How much, and how does that play when it comes to fitness? What role does that do?
So most of my staff, and when I say most, I mean all but maybe 6 are college students. And so lack of sleep is consistent through all of them. And those that are getting up super early, which could mean I get up at 3:45 some days to teach in the morning. Wow. I tell them you guys have to be in bed by, I'd say at least 8:30. You need to be thinking about bed in order to get into the deep sleep and the quality of sleep that you need to get up at that point. And so I'm often saying go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. You cannot expect your body to perform really at any level, or your mind for that matter, without quality sleep and decent sleep. And I'm always consistently amazed at folks that can be 5 hours, even 6 hours. I've just never, I'm more of a 7.5, 8 hour person. And so now that I know that, I just make it a priority for me.
Do you find that the more, and I found this, the more I exercise, the easier it is to sleep?
Oh,
I've always struggled with sleep.
There was a window during 2020 and COVID when I was planning SpoonMoon. I had worked out consistently for a really long time, a lot of years, and then was forced, as a lot of us were, to take a break from the group setting. And because I was planning a business and homeschooling children and figuring out what this weird life was happening with and all of that, I wasn't working out consistently, and I was anxious and wasn't sleeping well. And then just as we went to open and we started training, that was the first time in forever that I realized wow, I could see a difference. And so to fatigue your body physically is, I think, so important. Just, it needs that. That goes back to our genetics, caveman days, from when they were out doing all the stuff. So it's vital.
So you weren't able to work out as well going back because you weren't sleeping as well.
I wasn't able to work out as well. I didn't work out as hard and as consistently. And so I didn't sleep as well because my body wasn't tired. My mind was spent, but my body wasn't there. And so it was just like a restless sort of a sleep. Not
a good deep sleep.
Yeah.
I did read something actually today trying to prepare for this, that during COVID, there was a 25% increase in anxiety and depression amongst Americans.
I can believe it.
Like you would think being able to hang out at home and do nothing would be awesome, but no.
No. I mean,
not with kids.
No,
right, exactly.
Nope.
Oh man, that was some rough months. I want to know more. Dr. Roller said that you do red light therapy. And so I want to dive into that. That's a really interesting topic to me. Red light therapy. I've kind of just gotten into using that mainly for like scarring, not for like other health benefit for like face wrinkles and stuff, but I think there's a lot more to red light therapy that it can help with. And I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
So we've got a sauna that it actually comes out of Columbia, Missouri. And it is a canvas tent and it's near infrared. And I always compare it to my grandpa had this light in his bathroom. It was a heater and you'd turn the dial and crank it and it was this red light. And that is what this sauna is like. It's got 4 of these lights and it penetrates a lot closer than a near infrared. Like you might have some red light, but you can't see necessarily the lights. So there's 2 different types. You've got near and far infrared. And so the benefits of near is that it heats up your core temperature faster because it can penetrate because it's exposed light quicker. It boosts your metabolism. It helps you detox. It does all the things that the obvious things, but then it also gets into immunity and goes into your mitochondria, which is really helping flush out the aged cells that helps you stay younger longer and feel better in your body that's aging. And so for me, that's the direction I'm looking at now. The detox, the metabolism, it'll all come, but I really want to stay active and with it as long as I can.
So how often do you do that and like for how long?
I try to do it if I'm going in to teach. I'll try to do it either before or after. I mean, I'm looking at 10 to 15 minutes. 30 is about the max that you want to spend in there is what we tell folks.
Because of the temperature?
The temperature, and it just kind of does its job. This kind of goes along with exercise. Like you don't necessarily have to spend 3 hours working out. If you have an efficient program, you could do it in 15 and you're consistent with it.
Yeah.
Like, let's get it done.
So do you think it's the heat or the red light or both that's important when you're doing a red light therapy in a sauna?
I think it's both, but I think that I am a lover of the heat. So I'm going to lean towards the heat as being just above it. And I think I'm going to lean that way because one, the way it conditions the body to kind of fight external issues. But I think that detox is just so huge to help your body cycle through just all the
Well, aren't there some studies too out of Europe that will say, you should do red light therapy for at least 3 to 4, maybe 5 times a week because it has benefits for preventing Alzheimer's and a whole bunch of cognitive type of issues that happen as we get older.
That's where it goes into the mitochondria of it all. And to help cycle that, basically the slow aged cells out so new ones can get going again. And there's not as much stagnancy.
We, since Kim, I had gotten into that tent once at SpoonMoon and it was good. It was hot. So we ended up getting one because Kristen started getting into all of the This prevents Alzheimer's and stuff. And we really like the 15 minutes in there. I don't know if it's just that you get to unplug a little bit or that you sweat a whole bunch. But, I can tell a difference in my activity because now when I go to SpoonMoon, it's, I beat everybody in there at spin and I'm faster and burn more calories. And so I find the red light therapy has helped me a lot become pretty much the SpoonMoon champ. Wouldn't you agree with that, Kim?
Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, you win, man. Mm-hmm.
It's hard. Somebody has to, but it really is I don't know. What I can tell you is that I don't know. Like I can't say, okay, hey, this really makes me feel better. Mm-hmm. But what I can tell is like if we go on vacation somewhere and I don't do it for a week, it's like I miss it or I can tell a difference, but I just can't put my finger on why.
And I would say the same. And you're going on active vacations. When I go on vacation too, I'm walking and moving a decent amount, at the very least. And it's almost like when I come back, there's like this just antsiness that I can't put my finger on that I just am needing. And it's, for me, I've got to almost take it to that next level. I've tried to do Pilates and bar and workouts that are probably more friendly for my hormones or my adrenals. And I have found that for me, my body just needs a little bit more than that. Not everybody's going to want that or enjoy that, but I have found that's what's best for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, since we're kind of on the subject of the infrared and the heat, Dr. Roller has told me about your hot classes that you like to turn the temperature up. And so what is the benefit of having the heat up, hot, like exercising when it's hot?
Number one for me, it was that the muscles are softer going into it. So when you start with the room that's warm, your body has to adapt and heat up. And cold muscles are often when we see injuries happen, pulls, tears, whatever. So the sooner we can warm them up and get them ready to go, the better. Well, when you start in a hot room, they're going to adapt quite a bit quicker and become a little more pliable for us. And so it helps people, they'll like get to it almost right away. Whereas what I saw in a cold room was that maybe people wouldn't bend over as far. They would be more reluctant to like go for a first sprint. And they're really not now because they feel just a little bit better. Now they're also sweating right away. And some of this, I will say, is perception, because it's like good workout, sweat, great. They equal each other. Doesn't always have to be the case. So we're providing a great workout and we're providing a lot of sweat, but we've partnered them together. And so a lot of our clients now are like, I just can't go anywhere that makes me sweat as much. It's like, sorry.
It feels good when you sweat.
It does.
Yes. But do you burn more? Let's say you do the same exact spin class. Room at 70, room at 85. Are you burning more calories?
Your body's stress level has increased. And so, yes, you do. It's not a crazy amount, but yeah, because you're under strain and stress. Your cardiovascular ability has to expand because your heart is moving at a faster rate. Because when you start, it takes 2 to 3 weeks to acclimate to the heat. And so we always tell people, like, take your time, step out if you need to. It's like just starting a workout routine with the heat too. Like it's just another layer. So we try to really encourage people to listen to their bodies.
I'm not sure you ever get used to it. 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, it gets hot. I mean, you walk in the door and it's like heat. Now, we keep our exercise room at 85, but it doesn't quite feel the same as SpoonMoon because when you go into a class and there's 20 other people and there's something about all this extra body heat that makes it feel so much hotter, I guess. And that's another question. Group workouts versus individual workouts. What's better?
It's a no-brainer for me. I mean, groups 100% of the way for me. And It is the human nature that wants to collaborate and connect and be with others. And I wouldn't necessarily label myself as a competitive person, but you put me next to somebody and I'm going to beat them. I'm going to beat them. And
I would label you as competitive.
You would? Well,
that's all right. Yeah, it's not a bad label.
No, I don't think I ever put myself in that bucket, but it helps. It's a driving factor.
It motivates
you. It
you.
does.
Yeah.
And when you're with your friends, and there's just so many studies that say that group workouts and group fitness is just such a great tool for more than just the fitness side. But I'm also not one that can work out at home and see a laundry basket sitting there, or know I have to make dinner, and know I need to get on my computer and answer emails, because I'll go do obligations before that. And so I'm always going to have to leave the house too.
That, I think, wraps this up for this episode. And so, Kim, thank you so much for joining us. And she really does have a
Thanks for having me.
It's a first-class operation at SpoonMoon here in Fayetteville. You won't find anything like it. And anywhere we've ever been to do workout classes, there's still, SpoonMoon is the best. So if you want to try it, if you're ever in Arkansas, you need to go look her up and give it a shot. But she really is the fitness expert. So with that, thank you all for joining us on this latest episode of The Skinny Truth. As always, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, or the Apple Podcast channel. We'd love for you to download, like it, comment, ask questions. We're still checking for questions about future ideas of what you want to hear and what would be helpful for you. But I think this is going to help a lot of our patients kind of get through some of these exercise myths. So thank you for joining us again, and everybody have a great day.
Bye, guys.